What causes a person to act as if they are not alone, even when the camera shows otherwise? Inside a quiet hotel elevator in downtown Los Angeles, Elisa Lam steps into frame, unaware that these seconds will define everything that follows. The footage is silent, clinical, yet deeply unsettling. She presses multiple buttons in quick succession, as though urgency has overtaken reason. She leans forward, peering into the hallway, then suddenly withdraws, her body language shifting between hesitation and alertness. For a moment, she steps outside the elevator, waiting just beyond its edge, as if listening or anticipating something unseen. The doors remain open longer than expected, refusing to close, amplifying the tension of the moment. She returns, her hands moving in strange, almost abstract gestures, before stepping out once more. And then, she is gone. No struggle, no visible threat, only behavior that resists immediate explanation. It is not fear in its obvious form, but something quieter, more internal. And in that ambiguity, the first question takes hold. To understand the moment, it becomes necessary to understand the person. Elisa Lam was not simply a traveler. She was someone who documented her inner world with unusual clarity. Through her writing, she described cycles of ambition and collapse, moments of direction followed by deep uncertainty. Records confirm she had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a condition capable of altering perception, emotion, and behavior in ways that are not always visible from the outside. Medication had been prescribed, but evidence suggests inconsistent use. Those close to her later indicated that she had experienced such episodes before, moments in which reality became unstable and difficult to interpret. Yet despite this, she chose to travel alone, moving between cities with a sense of independence that appeared intact. She remained in contact with her family daily, until that contact suddenly stopped. As her journey brought her into a building with its own complicated past, the focus began to shift. Not just what happened, but what she may have been experiencing before it did. The building itself carries a history that cannot be ignored. Known as the Cecil Hotel, later rebranded as Stay on Main, it had long been associated with incidents that blurred the line between coincidence and pattern. Located near Skid Row, the environment surrounding it was unstable, transient, and often unpredictable. Over the decades, the hotel had been linked to suicides, unexplained deaths, and individuals passing through without leaving a clear trace behind. By the time Elisa checked in, much of this history had been obscured by rebranding. But the structure remained unchanged. The corridors, the layout, the rooftop access points, all functioned as they always had. Initially assigned to a shared room, Elisa was later moved after reports of unusual behavior from roommates. Notes left behind, instructions that seemed out of place, small signals that something was shifting. Staff did not escalate the situation, perhaps because nothing yet appeared urgent. But in retrospect, these moments begin to form a pattern, one that only becomes visible after everything else unfolds. The transition was gradual, almost easy to overlook. Reports describe Elisa as friendly, talkative, and engaged during her final day. She visited a bookstore, interacted normally, and showed no obvious signs of distress. Yet within the hotel, subtle changes had already been observed. She unexpectedly locked doors, left notes instructing others to leave, and exhibited behavior described as unusual but not immediately alarming. These contradictions create a difficult narrative, one where external normalcy exists alongside internal instability. Some investigators later suggested that this duality is not uncommon in individuals experiencing a psychological episode. The outward presentation may remain intact, while perception internally begins to distort. If this were the case, what appeared to be a calm interaction outside the hotel may have masked something very different within it. And as the timeline narrows toward her final hours, the distinction between what was seen and what was experienced becomes increasingly important. January 31st begins without a clear indication of what is to come. Elisa is last seen outside the hotel, purchasing items, speaking casually, appearing composed. She returns, and after that, the record begins to fragment. There are no confirmed sightings beyond the elevator footage. Communication with her family, which had been consistent, suddenly stops. At first, the absence is not treated as urgent. Delays during travel are not uncommon, but as hours turn into days, concern escalates. By February 8th, she is officially reported missing. The search begins, but already critical time has passed. And in cases where timing matters, delay can shape everything that follows. What remains unclear is whether her final movements were deliberate, confused, or reactive. There is no evidence of external pursuit, but there is also no clear explanation for her disappearance. Only a narrowing timeline and a growing absence. The video is released, and within hours it spreads far beyond the investigation itself. What was once a single piece of evidence becomes something else entirely, an object of interpretation, repetition, and endless scrutiny. Viewers watch closely, frame by frame, searching not just for movement, but for meaning. Elisa appears to press multiple buttons, more than necessary, more than logical. She steps forward, then back, hesitates, then leans out into the hallway as if responding to something just beyond view. Some believe she is hiding. Others suggest she is communicating, though with whom remains unclear. Her gestures, at times slow and deliberate, at others abrupt and uncertain, resist simple categorization. The elevator doors remain open longer than expected, as if time itself is stretched within that confined space. When she finally exits, there is no resolution, only absence. Investigators later revisit the footage with a different lens, not searching for an external threat, but for internal signals. Behavior consistent with disorientation, with heightened perception, with a mind reacting not to reality, but to something perceived as real. And in that reinterpretation, the footage becomes less about what is seen, and more about what cannot be confirmed or denied. The search that follows is extensive, but incomplete. Police investigate the hotel, question staff, and deploy dogs to track her scent. The rooftop is accessed, but nothing is found at the time. Limitations in procedure prevent a full room-by-room search, as no clear evidence of a crime has been established. This becomes a critical detail, one that will later shape how the case is understood. Flyers are distributed, media coverage expands, and public attention grows. But despite this, there are no confirmed leads. The absence of evidence begins to create space for speculation. Was she taken? Did she leave voluntarily? Or was something overlooked within the building itself? The search continues, but without direction, progress remains limited. And as time passes, the possibility of a simple explanation becomes increasingly difficult to accept. Then something changes, not in the investigation but within the hotel itself. Guests begin to report low water pressure. Some describe the water as discolored, darker than usual, carrying an unfamiliar taste that lingers longer than expected. At first, these reports are treated as minor inconveniences, routine maintenance issues that occur in older buildings. But as complaints increase, quietly, steadily, the pattern becomes harder to dismiss. There is a hesitation in the response, a delay that reflects uncertainty rather than urgency. Staff begin to look beyond the obvious, beyond pipes and fixtures, toward the source itself. The rooftop tanks, largely unnoticed, suddenly become central. It is a shift that feels procedural, almost technical, yet carries something heavier beneath it. Because what is found there does not bring clarity. It brings weight, a realization that something overlooked, something above, has been influencing everything below. And in that moment, the case transforms again, not just into a question of location, but of access, of possibility, and of how something so close remained unseen for so long. On February 19th, a maintenance worker opens one of the rooftop water tanks and finds Elisa Lam inside. The discovery is immediate, undeniable, and deeply unsettling. The tank is large, elevated, and difficult to access without assistance, without intention, without effort that cannot be ignored. Investigators quickly face a problem that is both practical and conceptual. one that cannot be answered with simple logic or quick assumptions or convenient explanations. How did she get there? Access points to the roof are secured. Alarms are expected to trigger if doors are forced. There are no clear signs of struggle, no evidence of another individual being present. The tank lid is found open, eliminating one question while creating another, quietly complicating everything, expanding the uncertainty. Could she have climbed in herself? The physical effort required is significant, yet no alternative explanation is clearer-cut. And so the case shifts again, from disappearance to reconstruction, from mystery to uneasy possibility, where answers exist, but never fully settle and never feel complete. In the absence of immediate answers, theories begin to form, not gradually, but all at once. Some suggest that Elisa was not alone, that someone else was present, hidden just beyond the limits of the footage. Others propose more elaborate explanations, involving manipulation, concealment, or intentional interference with evidence. For a time, these theories gain traction, not because they are proven, but because they fill the gaps left by uncertainty. Yet, as investigators return to the evidence methodically, without assumption, many of these ideas begin to dissolve. There are no signs of forced entry, no indication of struggle, no physical trace of another individual. Toxicology reports reveal no illicit substances, but they do expose something more subtle: inconsistencies in prescribed medication levels. This detail shifts the framework entirely. If medication was not taken as intended, perception itself may have been altered. What appears unusual may in fact be internally consistent. The elevator footage is revisited again, this time not as a mystery of pursuit, but as a moment of disorientation. Gradually, the number of viable explanations decreases, not through definitive proof, but through elimination. And what remains is not extraordinary, but deeply human. Years later, the case no longer exists in its original form. The most credible explanation is not dramatic, not external, but internal. Elisa Lam likely experienced a severe psychological episode, influenced by bipolar disorder and inconsistent medication use. In that state, perception may have shifted entirely. The elevator becomes not a place of escape, but a site of confusion. The rooftop is no longer restricted but accessible. The water tank becomes not a destination, but a consequence of disorientation. There is no evidence of another person, no sign of force, only a sequence of decisions made under conditions where reality itself may not have been stable. And perhaps that is why the case endured. The explanation is not impossible, but deeply uncomfortable. If a person can vanish within a building full of people, cameras, and structure, not because of an external threat, but because of an internal one, then what does that say about how fragile perception truly is? And if you found yourself in that same moment, would you recognize what was real and what wasn't? If a person can disappear inside a building full of cameras, what does that say about what we fail to notice every day? And if this story stayed with you until the end, you already know what to do. Stay curious and step into the next case.